應該使嘅，嘢所謂應該使卡嘅，應該使嘅都是得佢預定嘅，that's all right。哦，哎，哦。OK， 今日係7月8號，墨爾本下半年嘅第一個遊行。OK，Today is the 8th of January, which is the first rally on the second half of 2023. Hello, not bad. Just passed by.
Oh, you just passed by?
Yeah. Actually,
Stay.
Yeah.
We're all together. We'll have exactly the same footage.
No, the same footage anyway. But hello. Yeah, but I had an accident today morning. I just accidentally bumped into back of the U-turn.
Stairs, not gonna do anything else. And then they had 1 hour, you can exercise for 1 hour, and then you get fined and everything. So all these things that are happening, clear actually came true. So you think there's something to happen, but you see the digital currency. The currency to organize that. What's amazing is digital currency.
I don't know the same color because hopefully because if you get a pen of video, of course you get course triple this. 黐線我唔知我聽到個 Vita 跟住我聽到 Vita 我唔明嘅死。So just I'll take the car anyway. Just strip it off. Just strip it off. Yeah. Strip it off. Yeah. Strip it off. They just said, roll. Alright, 頭先就嚟一隊，而家第二隊就喺呢度 ，OK， 喺財政部嗰度。OK, that's the second group outside the treasury, right?
Frankie, drinking titties in the Grand Hotel, movie 6-hour regularly in downtown. Frankie, like screaming in the jungle, the anti-legends take mention on blood tears, and the stories that my father told me never seemed quite real. And the girls and races in the world.
51 years old.
3 cans. Nou, dit is steakhouse. It's very convenient. The only thing is second weekend. When they did their work for it, they let the ball off the fucking thing. Last night I had to banging on my window.
They're all like, this is good. You know, but we need everybody doing this. We had 30 groups all walking around the city in various directions taking out breakfast.
A lot of them are government side. They're all
to counter the mass media. And anyway, I know that they're going to be doing a letterbox.
They will fuck you either. You either have to take the job, or else if you sit down and say,
Will always suggest fairness is but
Did you really believe that this war would end wars? Well, the suffering, the sorrow, the glory, the shame, the killing and dying, it was all done in vain. Oh, we cried, it all happened again, and again, and again, and again, and again. They beat the drum slowly, they played the violin, they sound the death march as they lowered you down. Did the band play the last toast and chorus? Did the band play the flowers of the foliage on you?
Shaking my head, thinking something lame. Was it just me? Am I losing my mind? Am I standing on the edge of the end of time? Am I the only one? Tell me I'm not. Things are taking all the good we got. Turning the back, hell, I'll be damned. I think I'm turning into my old man. Am I the only one willing to bleed? Take a bullet for being free. Screaming what the fuck in my TV for telling me, yeah, you're telling me that I'm the only one willing to fight for my love of the red and white and the blue.
But they haven't. Shoulder to shoulder, 1.5, but then you know one right next to the other. That made no fucking sense.
Russian.
About me at work, I had to keep going and saying the truth all the time. You're not 1.5, get away, move back, move back. Well, the fitter was going, well, I can't because I'm fixing the machine. So then I'd say to the operator, move away, move away. Looking back now, it's fucking.
Boys, the airport, it makes everyone queue at the airport 1.5 apart, and they get on the plane. Yeah, all right.
Better thank them for doing all the hard work by themselves.
The airport was the best. We were flying from Darwin to Cairns. That's right. And we're standing there in line, night of, the 1.5. Yep, get on the plane, and everyone was in the first 11 rows, shoulder to shoulder, behind it, and then on the plane. Like, isn't the whole idea of everyone in separate seats? And make sure you wear the mask while you're sitting in the seat.
Yeah, me telling the cops they're doing a fantastic job.
I know.
When I showed them my work,
Yeah.
when I drove off, they're like, oh, Jesus.
That you had to show through your window.
Now, I could open the window, but they wouldn't.
You had to do the.
When you look at the same amount of what's going on, it's so fucked up. And they're still going to be, because they were served a long time, they're still going to be paid by their loyalty.
I'll comply with that if you prove that it's lawful. Put the onus back on them to prove it's lawful. Don't defend yourself, say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll go to court and I'll defend it.
Most probably, if it's sale that he didn't we would grant this kind of things higher than now, as government money is used, people pay off.
Yeah, we know.
So, regulation is a cause they can't just land. If that's the case, they should make out the show.
Once you have within the census, you have to and so they got the census, they got the right to vote, they got the voice through the elected representative, they got a voice, they've changed. So before 1967, they jumped up and down for equality.
I'm looking in, I can see you see on your colors, inside your I can see through you.
And they're happy to use the
Rudolph and
was ambushed out in Reno at number 10. Some saying they got the upper hand, never leave behind your guns. Never leave behind your guns. I was blinded by her beauty, her eyes cut me like a knife. Let the love for this lady cost me my life. Now here stands another man, thought I was wrong. But some say they got the upper hand, never leaving your guns.
Yeah, look each other, look each other.
As nightfall quickly approaches, so does my last breath. I guess it's all the same. Love like we always talked about tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. Mama plays some sound, she got the upper hand, never leave behind.
Please take them into it. And a great time. Very, very shortly. The way it did actually
Clutching on my Bible, I do it for the pride. I'm trained to be fearless, I feel the unknown. Give my love to a family and I'll see them when I'm home. Your sister, your brother, your cousin, whatever. Your family's my family.
Yeah, alright. By the way.
Hold on to it for a minute. Let me get behind your Hey, Mary.
Hey. Not bad.
You never catch me at the house without my 9 or 45. I got a big old tractor and a diesel truck. My idea of heaven's chasing white-tail bucks, and as a country boy, you know I can survive.
I fly high and proud, red flags and blue. The other one's got a rattlesnake with a simple statement made. Don't tread on me, is what it says, and I'll take that to my grave. Because this is me. I'm proud to be American and strong in my belief.
I have
And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. 'Cause I've never needed government to hold my hand. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. 'Cause my family's always fought to save this land and our country, boy, is all I'll ever be.
Attacks the body.
That's the name, human immunodeficiency virus.
Are you focusing on the Murdoch News? Oh, Fox News, okay.
Oh, Fox
Yeah,
News,
it's in there, yeah.
Fox News, ABC for projects.
Yeah, I know
7,
Murdoch's in there. Murdoch's one of them too. Murdoch Media.
AIDS, see, they put AIDS.
Yeah.
Afternoon, guys. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. We'll go in about 5 minutes, just waiting on a few stragglers. It seems to be getting a bit later and later each week. We'll try and make it so we leave at 1 o'clock or before if we can. As per usual, if you want to hand out some flyers, please see Randall. He's got plenty this week, and we'll need 4 people for the banners. We need 3 people now. Liz has put her hand up, so another 5 minutes. Cheers.
It's a feline bus. I've got to come here a bit earlier than I'd like to. It's a bit late. You've got to I've got an idea from there to run a bunch I find driving the bus is actually, I don't pay toll, so the bus is actually
They say, oh, the meter's not working. What the fuck's going on? Cheaper than it is, they're operating on maybe no If they say to you, got the check, and you say yes, they don't check.
Well, he just charged
係你嘅錯，所以其實。
But I think they got pokies here. It might be part of the reason they do it. Yeah. I think they have to lose a bit of money, don't they?
I know, years ago they used to go to Springvale, they probably do it a lot of areas, but go to Springvale, pick up the Vietnamese or the elderly, and for nothing, take them to the casino, feed them for nothing. That's all they're doing, is worrying about them spending money on the boat.
Well, they reckon,
and they do.
They reckon if someone goes to the casino and wins a lot of money, they'll give them a free night's accommodation because they want them to stay.
Make sure you lose.
We don't want you out of here.
Yeah, stay loose more.
Yeah.
We want some of it back.
I lived in Japan for a while, and my mate and his wife used to play pachinko,
Yeah,
ball
I heard
game.
about that.
And what happens is you win these steel balls. It's illegal to gamble, you see. So you win these steel balls, and they put them in boxes. But what you do is, outside there's this glorious building with lights and glitz and everything, and outside there's this shitty little donga, and it's got a window there, and you go up and you present your balls, and they weigh them and pay you. You know, yeah, because you're not allowed to gamble. Anyway, she was in there one night, and she got on a streak, and she said she wanted to buy a new kayak, and she said, "I'm going to stay and walk on enough."
Yeah, your message relates here because it's the same shit in Africa. The fact it's worse here. And then we just started, and I just said, oh, thanks, you know. And then we just literally started from there. So just saying, not every day, just once a week, you'll say, how are you? He goes, how are you, brother? You know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good, mate. But it is quite funny, yeah. And, you know what I mean? It's kind of nice, really, because I thought, oh, he's going to ask for some money or something, you know. But he didn't. He hasn't. And it's been going for weeks, yeah.
I'll tell them. I'll tell them. Right? All right. I'll tell them that. Okay, yes, guys. Hey, hello. Hey. So the other group's gone already, right? The other group's gone already, right?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
I think so. I just came down from the place.
Yeah. So where are they going? Down the Bird Street?
They always go to where Maya is.
Yeah, Maya. Yeah.
And then they head up towards the Queen Bit Market. Like
Yeah.
If you want to go catch them up.
Yeah. Look, hopefully they're
Okay, guys, if you could have four for the couple for the trolley, please.
And
we'll grab the banners. We'll start heading off shortly.
Are saying no that they were very not happy that they were not concerned.
Hope you all had a good week.
So this is our chance.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Look,
3 years and 3 months.
This is another feature. You know, Thailand. If you've been to Thailand, since 2005 the Thaksin issue, it was all about again the country borders versus city. It's all Thailandization of this country. It's not very good. If you've been to Thailand, you know what's going on.
They always chose, particularly New Zealand, but Australia as well, because they are island nations.
Yeah.
They are not very populated nations.
Yeah.
And so they were the first, they thought we'd test them out, you know, we'll push them. And it started, I mean, it goes before COVID really, but this is...
Thailand was example.
Yeah.
You know Thailand where Thaksin is?
Yeah.
The Thaksin won a lot of country votes, but he was toppled in the coup.
Yeah.
Let's go, guys. Thank you. Get a couple on the trolley, please.
Do you know that Thaksin, the party Thaksin, they
We
won a
have
lot
the
of country
banners.
votes, but the city,
We need another
is
3 for the
taking,
banners,
like,
please.
Yeah. I know.
Like the Phuket and also Bangkok areas.
Yeah.
We've got Liz. We need another 3 if we could. We can rotate it.
Which is virtually the same in Australia and Trump.
Well, it is. It is.
Okay, just another 2 for the Justice banner if we could.
I'll grab it.
And be sure to rotate it, guys. I don't want people taking the banner all day, so if we can spend a
That
couple
Thomas
of we'll
Mayo
rotate as
guy
we go
who
through.
pushed for the voice, he's not Aboriginal. He's a Torres Strait Islander. Did you know
No,
that?
but did you see the woman that was up on the podium the other day? And she sounded like, you know, it was.
Thanks, we'll have the banners at the front.
It was such a good act. It
Yeah.
was, you know.
Oh, sorry, honey.
Which podium? Which podium?
Oh,
Which podium? Which podium?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't know her name now, but she was
Marcia Lantern.
We're still
Yeah,
maintaining
she
a
was on
critical
the,
number, guys.
National
We've still got
Press
enough to
Club.
make a
It was a
difference.
couple of days ago.
Marcia
Still got enough
Lantern.
to get the message out. That's why we're
Wait a
here.
minute.
She used me. She get
The
a lot
aim
of
is to
respect
try
for
and
me
get a
on
couple
the
of people
issue of
every
sexual
week to
abuse and
become
also
aware of
drugs
what's
abuse.
happening and
Bear
hopefully
with me because I
start to
posted-
question
I
the government.
posted
That's
it.
why we're here.
It was just bear with me a minute.
Again, we'll try and keep our disruption to the public a minimum. We'll stay on the tram tracks. Won't stay too long at certain spots. We'll just get the message out and move on pretty quickly if we can.
This woman.
Oh yeah, this one. Oh yeah, this one. I don't know
To
who
the
she
general
is.
public, if you're
no.
wondering why we're here, please read the banners.
She sold herself
We are
out.
protesting a government that has let us
Sold
down.
herself out.
Yeah.
The last 3 years have shown their motives. We don't accept it. We're asking you to question everything. We want you to question the government's response to this so-called pandemic. We want you to question why the government's censoring the truth. We want you to question why the media lied. We want you to question what science the government acted on when they shut you in your house, when they shut your business, when they closed your schools. We are simply trying to raise awareness, guys. We're not here to interrupt your day. We are here to raise awareness. We are here to get people to question the government and what they've done, not only the last 3 years, many years. Your government has not been working in your interest. We want you to question why. We want you to become active. We want you to be part of change. We are concerned about our children. If you read the banners, the children are affected by this government's response to a so-called pandemic. There are some very simple facts we ask you to consider. We want you to consider that the average age of death of this so-called pandemic is 84.7. We want you to question why the government doesn't give you that information. We want you to question what advice the government acted on when they did close your business, when they mandated an untested product. What was the science? When they asked you to wear a mask, when they told you to wear a mask, what did they act on? Which advice? The government needs to be scrutinised for what they have done to this country. They cannot be allowed to get away with what they've done without consequences. We support the senators who are looking for a royal commission into this. This is the greatest policy failure in Australia's history without question. And we simply don't accept what they have done to this much great country. They are taking away your freedoms and your children's freedoms. And we simply don't accept it. We ask you not to accept it. We want you to question everything. There are still mandates in place in this country. The mandates must be removed. This product they call a vaccine is simply not a vaccine. It must be removed. The product has failed. They mandated an untested product that is not fit for purpose. We want to know what to do with that in the government.
Focus on the Australians vote. Other people can't vote. If you give to someone who's
Yeah, no, I don't hate the kids anyway.
what's that?
I don't give the kids anyway.
Tries to do Australians.
They were corrupted by the
It's only Australians who vote.
No, but they got family members here. That's probably why they're here.
We're not here to interrupt your day. We are simply here to try and raise awareness, to try and bring justice. We want to protect the children. That is why we're here. You see people with flyers, please take one and explain why we're here. Read the banners. It's for the children. We want justice for those who are adversely affected. They call a vaccine. Many of you will know someone who had an adverse reaction. We want justice for those people. We want justice for the children.
Let's go.
We want justice for those who had their businesses closed. Consequences for those responsible. You only need to consider some very simple statistics. The average age of death of coronavirus in this country is only 4.7. That's an easy statistic to find on the government's own website. And nobody can tell me that a pandemic that is supposedly the worst in 100 years has an average age of death of 84.7. And I challenge anybody to do some simple research. It's government data. We are not in a pandemic. We never were in a pandemic. The government has been lying to you. And we don't believe the government should be allowed to get away with lying to its own people. In a healthy society, the government is answerable to the people. In a healthy society, the government is transparent with the people. We still don't know what advice they acted on when they closed your business, when they locked you in your house, when they closed the schools. They acted out of fear, they acted out of corruption, and there must be consequences. Why is a person who admitted to spending $18 billion of your taxes on a vaccine not held accountable? Who is responsible for that gross mismanagement of your taxes? That's your money. The government spent $18 billion of your money on purchasing 315 million doses of a product that has subsequently failed. If that happened in the private sector, you'll be put in jail. It was a gross mismanagement of funds. For some reason, the government will not investigate who is responsible, why it happened, how it happened. That is your money. That is a debt that your children and grandchildren will be paying back. Do not accept it. Question everything that's happened, and please push for justice. As Elizabeth just pointed out, Pfizer are supporting the yes vote.
That's coming out of your...
Corruption.
Okay, they're going to do that, and this is, so that was my fear all along.
If you're wondering why we're here, please read the banners, please take a pamphlet. We are simply trying to raise awareness of the gross mismanagement of your own government over the last 3 years. You all know it's unacceptable. We are asking you to become active and push for change. The government acted beyond their powers. It's as simple as that. We are not a healthy society when the government feels they have the right to take away your liberties, your freedoms, your children's freedoms, your children's right to be educated. They acted beyond their powers and we don't accept it. We are asking you not to accept it. We are asking you to question everything your government did over the last 3 years and then question yourself over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 decades. Unfortunately, our own government is undermining the very fabric of this society. What we have is a legacy that we must pass on in good order to our children and grandchildren. Our own government is destroying a legacy paid for in blood by better men and women than they are. We are here because we are worried about the children, we are worried about the whole structure of this society. Your government has introduced generational change and brought forward the biggest policy disaster in Australia's history, without question. And why are there no consequences? We want the government held to account. Every week we stop outside Balenciaga. You see one of the banners that says we are here to protect the children. We want the moral and cultural decay of society to stop. Because unfortunately the reality is your government is indoctrinating your children and creating an epidemic of mental health issues in this country. We have a crisis of children with gender dysphoria, and that is against the natural order of things. Throughout history, 1 to 2% of the population would identify as same-sex attracted. Today, different studies show 15 to 20% of people now identify as LGBTQ. And I have nothing against that community, but I do have a problem when the government decides they have the right to push an agenda, to push an indoctrination of our own children. And it's happening through the schools, and it's government funded. We have gender services clinics in this country that are dealing with children who suffer gender dysphoria to a degree where they honestly believe they are born the wrong sex. Any government that promotes that is a failed government, and that is exactly what's happening. Your government is indoctrinating our children, and we simply want it to stop. We want the government to leave our children alone. We want the government to stop funding this LGBTQ agenda, which is giving children gender dysphoria. It's simply not right. We want you to question why. We want you to become part of solving this and putting an end to it. We're in a so-called pandemic the last 3 years. In the budget of 2021 in Victoria, the Andrews government committed $45 million of your money to LGBTQ causes. This is at the very time when we have an ambulance crisis. We're underfunding the paramedics. We have an aged care crisis. Funding gender services clinics. Gender services clinics are where children go when they are confused and they have gender dysphoria. Our first clinic opened in 2001. We now have in this state 8 gender services clinics. 2 of those, Royal Children's Hospital and Monash Health, are targeted to children from the age of 3. Just let that sink in. Your government is funding clinics for children from the age of 3 that believe they are born the wrong sex. This is not transphobic, this is simply about protecting children. As an adult, people can make their own decisions. Unfortunately, our government thinks they have the right to fund indoctrination of your own children. The state government spent $30 million on the Victorian Pride Centre during a pandemic. The priorities are wrong, and again, I'm not going to hold you up, we're going to move on. We are simply trying to get you to question why your government is funding indoctrination of children. And this company here represents the moral decay that we are in. This company admitted to using exploitation of children in their advertisement. The government did nothing. So look it up. Look up Balenciaga. Look up Balenciaga child exploitation. They admitted it. The government did nothing. The regulatory bodies did absolutely nothing when this company right here admitted to using children in an exploitative manner in their advertising. You have a nice day. So question it, please. Look it up. Look up Balenciaga. Look up what your government spends on indoctrinating your own children. Ask yourself why the Education Department has on their website that gender can be fluid. It is not the government's job to indoctrinate our children. The government thinks they have that right. We don't believe they do. And don't forget, it was only 2 weeks ago that the Queensland government passed a law allowing children from the age of 12 to change their gender on their birth certificate without parental consent. And that seems too absurd to be true. So I ask you to look it up. Queensland law allowing children to change their gender from the age of 12 without parental consent. So please, look it up. And if you don't like what you see, become active in pushing for change. Have a great day. We want you to question your government. That's all we are here for. And I know many of you will not become active. Hopefully 1 or 2 of you hear this and start to question what's happening in this country. We are in a moral and cultural crisis in this country. We are in cultural decay. We have government indoctrinating children. It's simply not right, and we want it put to an end. We want the government to leave our children alone. Everywhere you turn, there's LGBTQ propaganda. For some reason, the government believes that drag queens should teach stories to children. We don't believe they should. We want our children left alone. You can do whatever you want as an adult. Leave our children alone. It's as simple as that. Why don't they have drag queens talking at football clubs or aged care centres? Because they know they can't groom the children. Your government is grooming our children, and we want it to stop. Simple as that. If you come between a parent and a child, not on my watch. If they come for my children, they've got to get through me first. We want you to protect your children. We want you to stand up for your children. If you see a pamphlet, please take one. Read the banners. We are not trying to interrupt your day. We are not trying to be adversarial. We simply want to raise awareness of what's happening in this country. And I know there's a small fringe who disagree with what we say, but I challenge any parent, any father, any mother to agree with what the government's done. We all know it's wrong. We all know the government does not have the right to indoctrinate our children. So you need to work out at what point do you stand up. When do you say no? I ask the fathers here, is there anything your government can do that you won't stand up against? Anything? Because they're coming for the children. Are the children worth fighting for? Serious question. Again, I'm not trying to cause division, I'm simply asking, parents, will you stand up for your children? Because what the government's done is beyond acceptable. We all know that. What the government has done is not acceptable. And we want you as parents to stand up for your children, as future parents. Anybody? Or is it this small group here are the only ones with the balls to stand up? Many people come up to me and say, yeah, I'll join you in March. What you're saying is right. We know it's wrong. At what point do you actually become active? At what point do you protect your children from a government that is indoctrinating them? We all know it's wrong, guys. The children are why we're here. That's what it's about. The children are the future. Have a think about it. Question yourself. Question why we're here. We don't have to be here. We've been doing this for over 3 years. 3 years and 3 months we've been here. And we're not going anywhere because we believe in the future of this country. We believe in our children. And we want the government to leave our children alone.
Yeah.
We want the government out of our lives. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to be here. I'd rather be at home with my family. But when the government starts to impinge on my children's rights, there are some things I won't accept. We'll go left in, here goes. Please read the banners, please take a flyer. We're not trying to cause division, we're not trying to upset your day. We are simply trying to raise awareness. We want you to consider what the government's done over the last 3 years. And then when you realise that that's unacceptable, look back the last 50 years. Ask yourself what the government's done. Whose interests are they working? They are working in the interests of globalists. They are not working in your interests or your children's interests. Don't ever forget what they did. They locked you in your house for 24 hours a day. Remember that? Are we prepared to forget that and move on? Are we prepared to accept what's happened today as normal? Increase in heart attacks 17% in 2022. Is that normal? Are we prepared to accept excess deaths of 15% in 2022 as normal? Honestly, what are we prepared to accept before we take action? Question everything, please. Not for your sake, but for your children's sake and your grandchildren. We must protect the legacy that was left to us. We are simply custodians of the greatest civilization ever built, and I'm not prepared to watch globalists bring it down. Right across the Western world, governments are bringing down their own societies. Why is that? Have a look at what they've done. They are destroying Western civilization. Do not accept it. Question everything.
Yep. Yep.
And don't ever forget what these people did.
Yeah, take a look at this guy, right? He's very good, right? He's very good.
Undermining the very fabric
This
of
guy
this
went
society.
I never got the
They're
vaccine.
causing division. They're turning us against you.
Take it. He's got 4 degrees MIT. He tested 2 congressional hearings on facts, alright?
Government against the people. Because they know if we are divided, we cannot fight back. We must be unified. We must push for justice. The government acted beyond their powers and they still are. If you don't think it's coming, have a look at their own media releases. They are pushing to control every aspect of your life. We are not a true democracy. We are corporatised democracy controlled by globalists. Don't forget they shut you in your house, they closed your business, they closed the schools, they took away your body autonomy. You cannot move on. You can't just close your eyes and hope this passes, because the damage that has been done is generational. When your own government damages the health of this community, there must be pushback. You think it's not happening? Digital ID is coming. They want to control every aspect of your life. And if digital ID gets across the line, they will control every aspect of your life. Central bank currency. You may not be aware that 4 stadiums in this country already have facial ID. That's the MCG, the SCG, Allianz Arena, and Quadros Arena. The ABC did a report on it just last week. These 4 stadiums have biometric facial ID. So every single person that goes to those 4 stadiums is monitored by those in control of that data. And the stadiums won't say who gets the data. Is it the government? Is it private enterprise? They don't have to say. So every person that goes into these stadiums is tracked. And that is coming more and more. Digital ID is on the way. And if you don't think it's a bad thing, think about the restrictions that will give your government of your movements. They've already shown that. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, you couldn't go anywhere without showing a digital passport. They called it the COVID passport. Just wait till the digital passport comes in, because that is coming. They had an audit done to start that was released January this year by a man called David Fodey, who is a globalist. It was commissioned by the federal government, the Albanese government. And his report was that the government ID app will become a critical part of our future infrastructure, including biometric facial ID. Bill Shorten and Katie Gallagher both supported it. It is coming. The government is bringing in digital ID, and then central bank currency will follow, and they are trying to remove cash. So just have a think, if they remove cash from the community, what happens when the internet goes down? You will not be able to purchase your basic needs. They are bringing in digital ID, they are removing cash. It's in the news every day, banks are not having cash. We just want you to think about it. Again, I'm not going to hold you up, we'll move on. We're not trying to disrupt your day, we're trying to get you to become aware. Hopefully 1 or 2 people will do a search and look at digital ID and question everything the government's done.
We need to understand that this is a global issue. It's pushed at a globalist level. It is pushed at the United Nations level, the World Economic Forum level. The governments of this country are only doing what they're told. They don't serve you, they don't serve your family, they don't serve your kids.
Hey! Hey! Hey, good long time no see. Hey, you got a job?
No.
You
The
see?
media,
Did
the media,
they just pushed me down.
the banks, the
Well,
big
the
four
welfare
banks.
agency just
Have a look
asked me to
at
report
who
at least
owns
2 weeks to
majority shares
the
in
job
the big four
agency.
banks of this
Yeah, what about
country.
you? Did they force you to report some
BlackRock
job
and
agency
Vanguard.
or something like that? 2
Now
times a week?
these two
Twice a month?
also own majority shares in the big pharmaceutical companies. This is all connected because it eventually links
So where are you going?
to your digital ID and your social credit score system.
Victoria
The
Market.
social credit score
Yeah.
system is what they're pushing
so you're
at
still
a
doing my
gender
job?
2030 level. This is pushed at the United Nations
Yeah, they've gone to the Victoria Market.
and
Yeah,
it will
yeah,
link to your carbon
yeah.
credits,
Yeah.
which they will claim that you're saving the environment by being given a set of annualised points as part of a social credit score. And from that point, They will control you in a 15-minute neighborhood or a smart city. You will hear it described as a smart city depending on where you are. And you've got to keep in mind that that smart city is within walking distance. That's not even driving. This is all about eventually keeping you all in your 15-minute little urban bubble, where they can then tell you what to eat, where to drive, when you can go on holiday, where you can send your kids, what medications you can and can't have. This is happening. And this isn't off in some far distant future. This is already underway. The government is pushing the digital ID. The big four banks are pushing cashless because it all links together. Once you lose control of this, they will have absolutely every single inch of control over your life. This is not freedom. And speaking up about this is being censored at the highest degree. Democracies should not be censoring information. You might not agree with what everybody says, but they should be allowed to say it. The media is being hijacked and they tell you lies and they feed propaganda. And all we're doing, we are here to inform. We are asking you to just do some research, look it up and inform yourselves.
All right, let's go, guys. So if you see the banners, please read them. Please take a pamphlet. You'll see people handing out pamphlets. That's why we're here. We ask you to question the government's response to this so-called pandemic and to many other things. We want the government out of our lives. We want small government. I just want to be left alone.
Yes.
I don't want the government indoctrinating my child. I don't want the government closing my business on flawed science. I don't want the government closing the schools, and they won't tell us why. Don't forget, they locked you in your house. They made you wear a mask. And what was that based on? They did it without justification. They made it up as they went. They panicked. They're corrupt. They're parasites and they're cowards. We want accountability. We want the government held to account. There are some very simple statistics that cannot be denied in this last 3-year period. The average age of death of this so-called virus is 84.7. That is not a pandemic. Just for context, the Spanish flu, which was the last big supposed global pandemic, the average age of death was 28. The average age of death of coronavirus, according to the government, whatever coronavirus is 84.7. Just consider that when the government tries to lock you in your house next time. Ask what was that based on? What science did they lock you in your house when they had no data to base their decisions on? What gave them the right? What gave the government the right to take away your freedoms? We believe they didn't have the right. And we want justice. We want accountability. We want those responsible for it. These are not going to rule. The government lied. The media lied. They're still lying. A government that lies to its own people is a failed government that must be removed. There must be justice for what they've done. This is the most catastrophic policy rollout in Australia's history. We all know that. We all know it failed. We all know the product failed, the so-called vaccine. We all know the measures they were supposed to keep us safe failed. Everything they did failed. Why is there no accountability? They're now starting to leave. The rats are leaving the ship. Something's gone. What will Brett Sutton's legacy be? Brett Sutton's legacy will be the increased rate of depression, In Australia in 2018 there were 9% of people on antidepressants, and that's still a hell of a lot. Last year that rose to 18%. The rate of those people on antidepressants has doubled under the watch of Brett Sutton, Daniel Andrews, Palachuk, Kerry Chan, Kalanauskas, Michael Gunner. They are all criminals. They are all criminals, beyond question. They ruined lives. Our government ruined lives over nothing. Greatest side. Yes, we're still going on about it, I'm sorry, but we believe that injustice was done. That's why we're here. Yes, we're still here. We will be here for as long as it takes. Some people cannot let gross injustice pass.
Injustice that costs lots of people their livelihoods, costs tens of thousands of small businesses to shut down in mental health issues, the increases that they mentioned. These things can't be forgotten about. The government must be held to account for these actions that have caused this community.
Please read the banners, please take a flyer, and explain why we're here. We've been here for over 3 years, every week. Since March 2020, we have been demonstrating. We protested when they locked us in our houses, when they shut businesses, when they shut schools, when they mandated us to the vaccines and for over 3 years, as we honestly believe, we are concerned about the future of this country. That's why we're here. Justice for the children, our government, leaders must alone. The government's course of action is unjustified. Caused harm. Your own government has made people sick. Just let that sink in. Your government introduced policies that undermine the health of this country. And no, we don't accept it, and we ask you not to accept it either. The government that's working with the globalists must be held to account. Don't ever forget what they did. Into stage 4 restrictions, you remember that? 2nd of August, the government stopped him seeing his dying mother because she was dead. And then the government thinks they have the right to say he couldn't go to her funeral. Again, just think, let that sink in what the government did over the last 3 years. And whether you think it's acceptable. The government has destroyed people's lives. And we simply believe they don't have the right to do that. They've lied for 3 years, they've lied for decades. And I don't know if you're aware of this communications legislation amendment that was tabled before federal parliament just this week. The mainstream media gave it very little coverage. But what this legislation means is that the government has the right to control the internet. It's an exposure draft, so you can still leave a public comment. So again, if you're worried about your freedom of speech, please go to the internet, put in your search engine, ACMA, powers public feedback, and give your feedback on what the government is trying to do. Because this bill has the aim of combating disinformation and misinformation. I don't know if you've read George Orwell, but this is the Ministry of Truth. This is the government deciding what you are allowed to see on the internet, what information you are allowed to get. This is censorship, this is Marxism, this is the start of socialism and communism. And they're going to put this judgment in the hands of a body called ACMA, the Australian Communication and Media Authority. ACMA is an authority made up of 7 people, 6 women and 1 man. These people will be given the right, under this federal government proposed bill, to decide what is disinformation and misinformation, and then issue fines if it breaches their code of conduct. And they can fine up to $6.8 million. So who gives these people a right to decide what's information? What is misinformation? They don't have that right. But that's what the government is trying to do. Because unfortunately the government know that the internet is bringing them down. They can't censor the internet at the moment. So they want to censor it so that they can control the narrative, so that if there is another so-called pandemic, they can say, right, there's a pandemic, it's virulent, we're going to shut you down, we're going to lock you in your house. That is their aim. They want to control every aspect of your life, and while the internet is free, they can't do that. So they want to control the internet. They want to censor what you can see. And just consider, they can censor the internet, but they don't want to censor what is undermining this country. Child pornography is uncensored in this country, but that's it. Any 10-year-old child with a phone in this country can watch violent pornography any time of day or night. That's the society we live in. Is that a healthy society? They can censor. 33 countries around the world do censor pornography for children, ranging from age restrictions to total bans. And I'm not calling for a total ban, but I'm calling for the government at least attempt to stop children being able to access violent pornography any time of day. Because what does that do for a young man's sense of what a relationship is? What does it do for a young woman's sense of worth, sense of self-worth? They are destroying the moral fabric of this society. So, if you believe in free speech, which is the cornerstone of any healthy democracy, become active in trying to stop this communications legislation amendment, which is tabled before federal parliament. And I know most of you won't even bother, which is very sad. I get people come up to me every week and say, yeah, what you're saying is right, and I agree with you, and I'll be there next week, and they never turn up. And again, that is very sad, because this is generational, what we're looking at here. What we are looking at is the government destroying our children's future. What sort of society are we going to leave for our children and grandchildren if we don't step up and put a stop to what this government is doing? And I know why most people don't get involved, because it's easy to take the path of least resistance. You don't want to be criticised, you don't want to be regarded as an extremist. It's easier to stay in your lane and watch it all go by. You can close your eyes and say, yeah, we're back to normal. Are we back to normal?
No.
In your soul, you know we are not back to normal. What your government has done is generational damage. They have destroyed people's lives. We are not back to normal. And you might say, well, yeah, I'll sit back and won't do anything, that'll give me an easy life. And that condemns your children to a harder life than yours. Do not accept it. We want you to become part of change. We're here because we love this country. Simple as that. And we want a better future for our children. Hopefully one of you, two of you will become active. All right, we're going to have a couple of speakers. I'm going to put Melinda on. Wake up, people.
Just want to speak a little bit further about this authoritarian push to limit information and restrict information that the government's currently proposing. Where's this coming from? If you look back through COVID, that was a lot of conditioning involved, where they were claiming they were protecting people from the spread of misinformation that was dangerous. But now, after 3 years, you look around, look back at what's happened, look at the available evidence now, you can see the majority of the real misinformation was put out there by the government that's been lying non-stop. And now they want to be the arbiters of truth in this country. This is not how a healthy society works. We had leaders, state premiers, health officials appearing daily on TV with press conferences that feed you drips of information, that give you half stories, tell you, we can't tell you the rest of this today, we'll give you some more information tomorrow. What were they doing? They're conditioning people to tune into the television, to tune into what the government's telling them, and to keep going back for more advice from the government, because they're only giving you half a story based on falsehoods. The government's lying continuously. They lied about the effects of lockdown. They lied about the supposed advantages of lockdowns. It was an established fact before COVID that you don't lock down communities during a pandemic. It was an established fact beforehand that you don't close schools, you don't close businesses. These things were all done. The government kept claiming it was based on health advice, yet they never produced the health advice. They said they were following the science. They never produced the science. They were challenged once or twice to produce the data and said, no, we're not going to. what's clear now that what they did had ongoing negative effects in the community. You can see from around the world that places that didn't lock down, places that didn't have harsh restrictions, didn't fare any worse than the places that did. Sweden was demonised in 2020 for stating they weren't going to do any lockdowns. They had very, very few restrictions whatsoever. We were told that they were going to have carnage. They didn't. They now have one of the lowest death rates in Europe over the last 3 years. How is this possible if lockdowns were supposedly so effective? How is it possible if masks were supposedly so effective? We know these things aren't true. There's decades of peer-reviewed research showing that masks do not stop viral transmission. Yet the government told you you need to wear one to protect grandma. They lied about hotel quarantine disaster. They lied
That's called 110 or 108.
That one is there. I think that's where the window comes out the side as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's scary as shit.
So how do I get there? So straight? I'll figure it out. Thank you.
I don't know, do us all a favour with this fifth jab and jump. Oh no, it's a fire!
Yeah, I know.
Take your sandwich. Coffee's not yours. Do you want one? How do you have it?
Wet coffee and sugar.
Decaf.
The voice? Oh, it's passed already.
What's that?
It's passed already.
Yeah, but are they gonna vote? Are we gonna win the vote? That's the issue.
I don't know. I believe it's passed. I don't know. It's just a matter of just formalities now.
Yeah. We have to vote for it. We're gonna say no.
What are you gonna do? Vote no.
Yeah, I vote no.
I have enormous respect for every flight by this country. 102,723. Anybody who puts on the uniform of this country is prepared to die for this country, and they deserve all of our respect. Here's John. Thank you. I'm here just to make a couple of points. How do we know that our freedom is under threat? Well, I guess you don't hear the truth. That's one thing. You don't know the truth until you see it. You see it on the media. The media is owned by those that are threatening our freedoms. So there you go. The media will not expose the threat to us because it's being brought upon us by their owners. Yeah, look, I was in the army about 50 years ago or more, and I say to anybody that has served Australia and has sworn an oath to defend the Constitution, defend Australia, that oath still stands. So keep that in mind when you go home tonight, that the threat is in Australia right now, and all of those who have served Australia in the past and present need to know that threat is real at the moment.
and it's coming from within. We at one stage sent our fighting forces to other countries to liberate their freedoms. Well, our freedom's under threat here now. And again, I appeal to all of those that are ex-service, military and police, by the way, and those that are still serving, to stand up and get our freedoms back here. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And I often wonder what it's going to take. I really do. I can't think of anything more egregious than what we've done in this country in the last 3 years. I think a lot about the veterans. The First World War, the first Australian to die wasn't actually in Anzac. He was a young man called William Chisholm. He was 22 years old. He was born in Sydney. He was studying medicine in London. He joined the 1st East Lancashire Regiment and was in battle at a place called Cambrai, which is in Belgium. And he was hit by shrapnel and tore his abdomen apart. And his lieutenant said his last words were, "Tell my people I died fighting like a soldier." And then I think about the reaction of most people today, particularly the young men. Where's the fighting spirit? Have a think about what your government's done. Your government has injured this community. We have got a threat from the inside, and the reaction has been mostly nothing. 100 years ago, men were prepared to die for this country, and tens of thousands did. And what did they die for? They didn't die for us to get away. So have a think about what you're prepared to do. Here's me.
They could be going on.
What do you mean what the people want?
They're going on.
What do the people know about running
Okay,
civilization?
exactly. About the smart cities.
What do the people know about running civilization?
It's pretty hard here in Australia.
Even if you've got a doctorate, right? Even if you study
Yeah, all the
you have to study for millions and know all civilizations. To be able to even study.
This is the influence of the globalist model, and it's trickled down right to your local councils. And the only way that they're going to control, the only way that we can control this is now what they're going to do is social credit score system leads to what will become your carbon credits. And from there, they will tell you what you can and can't do. This is ultimately about absolute control. And they want to keep you living within your 15-minute bubble. They will tell you what you can and can't eat. They want us to stop eating meat. There is a document that Melbourne and Sydney are signed off on. It's called the C40. The agenda, just one example of the agenda is zero meat consumption by 2030. Now that's fine.
Yeah, right.
out here interrupting your lunch, interrupting your day. I want the government to leave me alone. I want them to leave my children alone. That's why we're here.
Hello. Hello, yeah. I live in regional Victoria. Melbourne was enjoying the fabulous lockdowns of 2021. Regional Vic wasn't locked down as much as you poor guys, but let me tell you, I participated in a series of council 5 workshops in total with the Bass Coast Council. That's Phillip Island, Imbala, Wonthaggi and all that sort of surround. So we're pretty isolated. Like I live in a little township, it doesn't matter what it's called, with about 700 people, permanent residents. Anyway, in this council meeting, they told us the whole premise of the meetings were how we will be living by the year 2040. So that's what, 20 years or so away, and they were showing steps of how we were going to be. And like the gentleman leading before who were telling you about the smart cities, we were in a township of Imbala, and they were selling us the 15-minute cities in these workshops. We were sitting there with council members talking about how we're going to have restricted travel in the future. This was an open discussion on round table with council members, councillors, council workers and members of the community. They were telling about this. They didn't mention the actual name, 15-minute cities, but they explained it to us that we won't have access to cars like we have in the future. We were actually told at this meeting that by 2040, we might not even own a car. So all you Tesla's drivers out there, it might be your last car, so enjoy it. But anyway, they said we're going to have Ubers, controlled obviously not by us. So that's one form of restriction if you've got to ring an Uber every time and we don't have a car. This was discussed openly. Round table discussions with council members, people. But the big thing that got me the most was how they talked about openly to us of how they intend to microchip us all. Microchip you and your children. They openly discussed it with us. Call it what you want, sir. It doesn't matter. All it is, they microchip us, mate.
Holland's one down.
If you don't listen to people like us, we're concerned about the children's future. All I can say is, I hope you enjoy the future that they're preparing for you. Have a good day.
Look, the worst case scenario, we have to live in Russia sooner or later. We have to live in Russia.
All right, we'll move on pretty shortly, guys. Hopefully we've made a few people think about what's going on. And I honestly want young men to think about at what point do they start to stand up and do something about it, do some pushback. What I get every week is why you're still here, we're moved on, we're back to normal. And I say every week, we are not back to normal. If you think we're back to normal, it means you accept what the government did over the last 3 years. It means you accept being locked in your house, being told to take an untested product, the schools being shut, the children's mental health being affected.
And Mick can give you the $840.
And we all know it's not. So there is going to come a time when you're going to have to react. At the moment you're justifying it to yourself and saying, well, I'm not really affected. Or if you know someone who's been perhaps vaccine injured, you know someone whose child struggling, you know someone who lost their kids. You haven't been affected enough yet to not to act. Excess deaths of 17% does matter. An increase in heart attacks does matter. And what's the cause of it? Our children getting sick does matter. prices of childhood.
Lấy
We now have numbers that 1 in 7 children. What's causing it? We have 8 to 10% of children have ADHD. What's causing that? We have an increase of Tourette's of 3 times in the last 60 years. Epilepsy's gone up. Why? The government's not investigating it. We want justice. We want people to get involved, and at some point you are going to have to act. It's just a matter of time. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you start to talk about what's happening.
Just for those that are nearby, when I said earlier that you don't know your freedoms, you're going to lose them. So if you want to know your freedoms are, what they are, you might think you've got freedoms. There's 2 websites that are going to be useful for you to do some research. One is knowyourrightsgroup.com.au, because if you don't know your rights, you haven't really got any. The other is constitutionwatch.com.au, all one word, Constitution Watch. Both those websites will reveal to you how Australia's lost our freedoms.
I know. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, John. We'll move on.
Are you Vietnam bad?
This has been a battle going on for thousands of years, guys. Pericles said 2,000 years ago that freedom is the sure possession of those alone with the courage to defend it. If you want your children to be free, if you want your grandchildren to have a better future than you, you've got to fight for it. Simple as that. You cannot just watch this go past without action. Fight for your freedom. Corporations stand up for? The unions? Any of the government stand up? Any politicians? When we were crying out for some sort of help, did anybody stand up for us? Unfortunately, they didn't. The unions caved, the corporations caved, the medical fraternity, they all knew it was wrong. Everybody knew they had questions and nobody stood up. Why is that? Who stood up for the working class? Who stood up for the families? Because this is a big deal. This is not a dispute over taxation or foreign policy. This is a government that introduced policies that damage your health, your children's health. This is a big deal. Where were the unions when you needed them? Every single union in this country caved to the corporations, to the globalists, to the big government. I thought the unions were supposed to fight for the working class. They betrayed the working class. The unions must be accountable for what they did. Not one single union in the Western world stood up for the working class.
I'm a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber.
When you wanted support, when you wanted help, when you wanted someone to stand up for you, every single institution, corporation, government, union.
But you gotta, when you go to YouTube, you gotta feel
Why did the union not stand up for the workers? I'm not going to shut up because it's important. Sorry if you didn't upset you, but I'm not going to shut up. I've been doing this for 3 years, I'm going to keep going. Because the people are important. The government betrayed you. The unions betrayed you. The medical professionals betrayed you. They all knew it was wrong. They all had questions, no one stood up. And that's very sad. Because a society that won't fight for itself would perish. There's a philosopher and economist called Jim Keynes. He said that a society perishes by its own hand. We are watching the destruction of this once great country. They are taking away your freedoms. Digital ID is coming.
Hell, man, hell.
The next pandemic is planned.
Subscribe to this too, right?
We are not a healthy society.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tell your friends.
Read the banners if you wonder why we're here. Take a pamphlet.
I cannot, please.
We want the government held to account. We want the unions held to account. We want the medical professionals held to account. We want to be left alone. We don't want the government dictating to us how to live our lives. It's very, very simple. Do not trust your government. It's very confronting to realise what they've done. What has your government done? What is Western society doing to itself? Our politicians sold their soul. Unfortunately, we are governed by traitors. Daniel Andrews, he doesn't have a mandate. He only got 37% of the popular vote. He didn't have the right to shut you in your house.
Yes, he did.
He didn't have the right to mandate an untested product. He didn't have a majority.
Yeah, I know.
He took away your body autonomy.
Did you watch
He breached the Nuremberg Code, informed consent. They shut down the truth.
No, I didn't watch it.
They stopped people being able to have access to the truth.
Is it worth watching?
Let that sink
I'll give it
in.
a call tonight, alright?
Is it like that
When your government lies to you, it's got to be fought against.
Battleground Melbourne, whatever it was?
The government went into partnership with the biggest criminals in history and big pharmaceutical companies.
The sound of freedom.
I'm sure some of you are aware of their criminal history. Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson. You probably don't know that Johnson & Johnson had asbestos in their baby powder. They did. For 50 years they had asbestos in talcum powder for babies. They reached a settlement just this year of $13.1 billion Australian against 70,000 plaintiffs who were injured from their baby powder, which contained asbestos. That's Johnson & Johnson. That's who your government went into partnership with. The biggest criminals in history.
I believe in giving back. At the end of the show, it could be a tree or in a hat. It could be
Oh, the cops didn't fall us today. That's strange.
What is it?
The cops didn't fall any of us today. Or in other marches. Where they? They disappeared.
The cost of...
The cops.
The cops?
Yeah.
They haven't been with us. We don't have cops. Police here, no.
Oh, they disappeared.
They haven't been here for 8 weeks.
Oh, great. Yes, they know that they...
If you're wondering why we're here, guys, just read the banners, please. Take a pamphlet if you see them. We're here because we're worried about the future of this country. We're worried about the children. We want the politicians held to account for what they have done. They acted beyond their powers. They introduced the most catastrophic public policy rolled out in Australia's history. Everybody can see that now. They lied to you. The media lied. They didn't have the right to do what they did, and we simply want justice. We want accountability. We want to know why they spent $500 billion of your money on this pandemic response based on flawed data. They didn't have the right to shut you in your house. They didn't have the right to close the schools. They simply did not have the right, and they did it anyway. It was all based on lies. Simple as that. The government lied, the media lied, they're still lying. At what point do you stop accepting a government that's not working in your interest? At what point do you start fighting back? Because we're not back to normal, guys. We are a damaged society. This government has ruined people's lives. Most of you will know someone who had an adverse reaction. I personally know 3 young men whose lives have been changed because they were forced to take a product they didn't want, they didn't need, but they were forced to take. Let that sink in. The government breached the Nuremberg Code and informed consent. They coerced people into doing something they did not want, and as it turns out, they did not need. It was all based on lies. Excess deaths in the first 2 years of this so-called pandemic actually dropped 6%. And that's when these variants were supposedly the most virulent. Remember the early variants? We had the L strain straight out of China. Then we had the Alpha, the Beta, the Gamma, the Delta Plus. These were the most virulent strains. Excess deaths or total deaths in this country in the first 2 years of this pandemic actually dropped. We are not in a pandemic. We never were in a pandemic. The only virus was fear. And the government was very good at promoting that narrative. They divided this community. They divided families. They divided the workers. The employers betrayed you. The government betrayed you. Your union betrayed you. Every single institution failed to stand up for the working class and the families, let alone the children. The children were affected by this. They lost schooling. They didn't have the right to close the schools. They did it anyway. What was that based on? What was the science behind closing schools? There was absolutely no evidence that it would make any difference. We've all known children with this so-called virus, apparently this coronavirus, it didn't affect children. And they pushed an untested product on children. I want you to think about that. Snap out of the denial. Your government pushed an untested product on children. They didn't have the right. No matter what your stance on this whole pandemic, the government simply did not have the right to take the course of action of which they did. Any government that puts children at risk to protect the elderly is a failed government. Our government has failed us. Our government has failed our children. Our government has failed our grandchildren. Our future descendants have been failed by a corrupt, incompetent, cowardly government. We are governed by parasites who are controlled by globalists. There's no other explanation for what happened. They are all compromised. Why did they shut the schools? I haven't been able to have one reasonable response to that. They didn't have the right to close the schools. They took 2 years of education of your children. They made children wear masks. They made children sanitise. At my son's school, they were sanitising every single time they would leave or enter a classroom. It was absolute insanity. They are destroying children's immune systems for absolutely nothing. That's what they did. They came for the children and not enough people stood up. It's now time to stand up for your children, your friends' children, for your future children. We must stand up against this injustice.
Playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got blood on your face, you big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place. We will rock you.
Please read the banners, guys, if you're wondering why we're here. We've been doing this for over 3 years now. We're not trying to interrupt your day, we're just trying to raise awareness, put some information out there of what the government's done, try and get you to look beyond the mainstream media, see what the narrative really is, see what they have done. This is about awareness, this is about motivating people to become active. We're here for the children. We want the government to leave us alone. I want them to leave my children alone. Beautiful day. Daz is back.
Yeah, sure. We would have been doing handstands upstairs, wouldn't we, mate? Yeah, Dave.
I was hopping on backwards on one leg. That's right. I always hopped on one leg, you know.
Handstands all the way up. You made it.
Yeah, I know.
Have we lost people along? Oh, no, we're gonna maybe some kind of they might take it even
It keeps my ears warm. Are you well? Every week I see you, every week. Well done.
Because this is too much, my love. This is too much. It's really ridiculous. I mean, there are no words. You can't even name it. It goes against any common sense, anything that is human, anything that is basic. I don't know how more people can understand them.
We're coming up to 4 years now. 4 years.
Almost, not just 3.5.
3.5.
Now the Minister of Truth and all the stupidity, the voice, all that, I mean, most of this just
And if the
grab more
government
money
concerns
and
itself
destroy.
so much about your public health, then why has it forced so many people out of work because they didn't want to get another jab?
Khalistan referendum.
Or they didn't want to have, or they wanted to actually have the choice of what they put into their bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the transcripts, please, guys.
Oh, they got it for the Khalistan that 佢哋去某印度人
Please
嘅學
read the
校，
banners, guys.
就
That's
係
why
黑教
we're
學校
here.。We've been doing this for 3 years. We're trying to raise awareness. We're trying to get the government to be held accountable for what they've done. Very simple statistics that condemn the government's actions. The average age of death, the case fatality rate, we are not in a pandemic. We never were in a pandemic. The damage has been done by your own government. We want accountability. We want you to forgive yourself. I know most people are in denial. They don't want to confront what happened. Forgive yourself, forgive us, but do not forgive the government. Do not forgive those responsible. Do not be hard on yourself. They use coercion to make you take this product they call a vaccine. They closed you in your house, they shut the schools, they shut your business, and no one stood up for the worker. No one stood up for the family. We want accountability, we want justice. Unfortunately, many of you will know someone who had a bad reaction to this so-called vaccine. We want justice for them. We're here for the children. Don't agree, mate? No, seriously, mate, I'm happy to talk to you. Do you agree with what the government did? No aggression, mate. Just if you say you don't agree with us, why is that? I'll give you the mic. Do you want us to leave the government comfortably? No, just a question, mate. If you don't agree with us, I'd like to know what your rationale is. Did the government work within their rights or not?
Don't about him, just
We don't think they did. I think in your heart you know they didn't as well. You've got children, son. You should be stepping up and protecting them.
And that's the level of intelligence that we're dealing
That's all right. We'll look after your children.
The 5th or 6th booster.
History's going to judge this time, guys. History will judge those who complied and those who pushed back, those who fought for their children. Because this is a big deal. This is a government that introduced policy that damaged the health of this community. Without question. Nobody can justify to me what the government did. I'm still waiting for someone to give me one rational response that justifies anything the government did. Does anybody have anything for me? Can anybody put me at ease and say, no, the government was right, they worked in their interest. They had the right to introduce an untested product, that's all good. Anybody? I don't think so. In our souls, we know the government acted beyond their power. We know that. It's a matter of at what point do you say, I don't accept it, I'm prepared to act and try and hold these people to account. Because that's what's going to take. The government must be held to account. And again, if it was only a matter of foreign policy, perhaps it wouldn't matter. Or taxation reform, or perhaps it doesn't really matter. But when they talk about your health, it does matter. We'll go down. All right, we'll go down. Come to, yep. It does matter, guys. We don't tram tracks, guys. We don't want to block the traffic. We're not here to disrupt anything. We're only trying to raise awareness. We don't want to cause more division. The government's been very good at dividing us. That's not why we're here. We're here to try and unify. We're here to try and get people to fight together against the government that hasn't worked in your interest. We don't want anger. We don't want division. We don't want hatred. This is not about hate. This is about protecting the future of this country. This is about protecting our children. We want the government out of our children's lives. We want the government out of our lives. And again, if everybody looks inside their soul, they know the government acted beyond their power. It's a matter of what's acceptable. What do you accept from a government that introduced policies that is causing damage to this community? And again, I challenge anybody to tell me that the government worked within their powers. Did they have the right? Did the government have the right to do what they did? We don't believe they did. And I think in your hearts you know they didn't as well. Did the unions have the right not to stand up for the worker? Did the medical professionals have the right to all play along, to not question? All the doctors knew there was queries about this whole rollout.
Battery change. The fuck cleaning. Fact checkers. Fact checkers are turned you off, Matty.
Test. All right, we're back. Apologies, guys. Yeah, we're just here to question the government, guys. That's the only reason. We want justice. We want accountability. We want to know why the unions let you down, the corporations, local government, state government. Please read the banners, guys. Please take a pamphlet if it's out there. As I keep saying, we're just trying to raise awareness of what's happened.
For this is the love of God. This is the one. For this is the love of God. How do you love God according to the Bible? Not according to
So keep going, guys. All the best. We're here for a different reason. All right, we'll move through, guys. Read the banners, guys, if you wonder why we're here. We've been here for over 3 years. Take a pamphlet. We simply want the government held to account. We want the unions held to account, the medical professionals. We want to know why the government acted the way they did. The government is not working in your interest. We want you to push back. We want you to question. We want you to make sure these people are held to account for what they have done. They simply didn't have the right to lock you in your house, to shut the schools, to close your business, to take away your body autonomy. They took away your informed consent. They said to you, Unless you take this untested product, you can't work. You can't feed your family. It's outrageous. We want justice. The product is the greatest failure in Australia's history. Greg Hunt admitted it. He's now left. He knows what's coming. The rats are leaving the sinking ship.
Red Sutton. Red Sutton.
History will condemn these people.
Sutton. Sutton.
Brett Sutton, Daniel Andrews, Brad Hazard, Greg Foley, Gladys Berejiklian, Palaszczuk, Gunner, McGowan, Malinowskis. They're all corrupted. They're all globalists.
Jacinda Ardern. Jacinda Ardern.
There must be justice.
At the moment, the government is pushing a disinformation bill. It's a disinformation bill. This is what they're calling it. This is all about suppressing freedom of speech further. Under this bill, the media is exempt. Under this bill, government is exempt. The ones that aren't exempt are we the people. If they disagree with anything that you say, you can be fined. And you can be fined a substantial amount of money. This is an absolute attack on free speech. No democracy should ever silence people. There should be no censorship. This is really important because once they stop, if they introduce this bill, freedom of speech dies. What little of it that we have left.
Just read the banners, please, guys. Have a look at the flyers. Take one. Have a read. It's not so much a protest now, it's more an information gaining exercise. We want you to question everything the government's done. Not only the last 3 years, going back decades. The government is selling out this country. The infrastructure, the farmland, the residential properties. It's all been sold to overseas interests.
Just have a look.
A baby born in Victoria tomorrow had a debt hangover of $66,000 before they've taken their first breath. And he's going to national level. We want you to question why. I say every week, why is the government not standing up for children? And I want to give you an example of this. In February this year, there was a court case for a young man called Alex Case. Alex Case was sexually abused by a 44-year-old man named Jeffrey Coffrey. You might know Jeffrey Coffrey. He gained some notoriety as the Collingwood Cheer Squad member, Joffa. Joffa pleaded guilty to sexual penetration of a 14-year-old boy in the court in Melbourne in February this year. The magistrate in that case was a man named Gerald Mullally. I want you to remember that name because he's the enabler of pedophiles. Mr. Mullally decided that Mr. Coffrey didn't deserve a jail sentence, even though he admitted to sexual penetration of a 14-year-old boy when he was 44 years of age. So why is the judicial system not standing up for children? You can look this up. This happened in February this year. Jeffrey Coffrey, Alex Case, Gerald Mullally was the magistrate. So there was some public backlash about this. So I went to the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, which is a woman named Kerry Judd. Kerry Judd is the King's Counsel, which is the highest level you can get in the judiciary in this state. Kerry Judd reviewed this case and decided she agreed with Mr. Mullally that Joffa didn't deserve a jail sentence, despite pleading guilty to sexual penetration of a 14-year-old boy. Why is the government not protecting children? Ask yourself that question. Kerry Judd also had some notoriety just last week with the IBAC investigation. Kerry Judd decided that the Victoria Police didn't have a case to answer, despite the Victoria Police admitting to using Nicola Gobbo as an informant against her own clients in legal cases as part of the Melbourne Underworld cases. That's our Director of Public Prosecutions, Kerry Judd. She again is not working in the interest of the people. This case cost the taxpayer $100 million, the IBAC investigation. $66 million of that was legal fees for Victoria Police. It affected 1,000 cases, which now have to go back before the courts due to the corrupt behaviour of Victoria Police. The DPP decided there was nothing to answer for. Have a think about that when you consider if the judiciary is working in the interest of the people and, more importantly, the interest of the children, because they are not. Let's move on, please, guys. Read the banners, guys. Take a pamphlet if you see one. We're trying to get you to hold the government to account. What's the matter, mate? You don't agree? Seriously, why not? Do you honestly believe the government worked in your interest? That's a question. Did the government work in your interest? Now, can you answer the question, mate? I'm not here for aggression. I'm just asking. I wanted some feedback. Do you think the government worked in their interest, in yours, in the last 3 years? That's why we're here, mate. The government's betrayed us, son. Now, I'll give you the mic, mate. If you can tell me that the government acted properly, I'll accept that. But no one can. Everyone knows the government lied. The media, you're going to walk off, mate, you're going to give me an answer, because you disagree, mate, but this is open debate. I will give you the mic if you can explain to me the government acted properly. Did they? Did they have the right to shut down the business? Did they have the right to close the schools? Did they have the right to force an injection on you? Simple question, mate. I'm after a rational answer, because if you can't answer it and you walk away, you know in your heart the government acted improperly. It's very sad because you're prepared to walk away without standing up for what you pretend to believe.
Get it.
It's weak.
Hey, next time see me like this, tell them to get a 5th or 6th booster, alright?
We're not trying to cause division, guys. We're trying to get the government held to account. We all know the government betrayed us. We all know there's no justification for what they did. It's a matter of when you're prepared to stand up. That's why we're here. We don't want to cause division. We are trying to bring the people together to fight the government as a collective. We're here for the children. We're not here for division, guys. We're not here to create problems. I'm sorry if we don't have today. We want you to get to acknowledge what the government did. This is a big deal, guys. This is a government introducing policy that harms the health of the people. That's why we're here. I want the government out of our lives. I want the government to leave our children alone. That's why we're here. And again, I get a lot of abuse from the odd person here and there, but no one can give me a rational answer as to why the government did what they did. No one can defend it because they know it's indefensible. What the government did is indefensible. And it must be investigated. They must be held to account. There must be consequences for those responsible. Because the debt they created, the fracturing of society, it's generational damage that's been done. It's generational damage to this society, to this community, to your children, to your family. They damage your business, they close your children's schools, and what gave them the right to do that? What gave the government the right? They were working on flawed data, flawed science, they lied to us. And unfortunately, enough people complied to enable them to keep taking away your liberties and freedoms. And how far do we let them go? Honestly, how far do we let the government go with their agenda? At what point do you stop and say, I don't accept that? Is there anything your government can do to you that you won't accept? Because it doesn't get much more absurd than what's happened in the last 3 years. Is there anything you will not accept from a government? And you will know there's a point where you say no more. When is that? When do you stand up for yourself? When do you stand up for your children? Real talk here. You have to stand up. You can't sit back and let other people do the fighting for you. You cannot let others do the hard work. You need to get involved. You must get involved. Because every week it gets more absurd what's happening. Every single week they take more and more. They keep chipping away. Look at what's happening in France. France is the canary in the coal mine for every other Western country. They are imploding. And I'm absolutely astonished at what people are prepared to accept. Do many of you know that they just raised the retirement age from 65 to 67 in this country? Didn't get any press in the mainstream media. Do people know that? They just raised the retirement age by 2 years. No one seems to care. Is that the issue? No one cares? Because we're animalised, we're all individuals now, we're all selfish. If it doesn't affect me, well, it doesn't really matter. It does matter. So what affects one affects all. We are a community, we are a collective. It affects all of us. And at what point do you start to push back? When they raised the retirement age in France, which happened earlier this year, there were 250 demonstrations against it. The French at least had the balls to stand up and push back against the government raising the retirement age. Our government just raised their retirement age for 2 years and no one said a thing. No one seems to care. It's very sad.
The Dutch, don't forget the Dutch, alright?
The Dutch, the Europeans, Zelensky, globalist.
Please comply. Governments.
The Canadians also now have every march, just like us in all cities, Canadians. So don't worry, the Canadians are us too. The Canadians.
The government has no power without the backing of the people, without the compliance of the people, without the endorsement of the people. Whether you believe it or not, this is what happens. When you comply with unjust laws, comply with unlawful mandates, you give the government power, and you give them the power and the authority to continue doing that, continue taking your freedom. All that's required is for people to stand up. Do not comply with things you know are wrong. Do not comply with plans, directives from governments that are unlawful. You don't need to be radical. You just need to be aware. Make a stand, do things in your own way, do not support the corruption. Do not comply with the things that you know are wrong.
Do they agree to it? I don't know.
Once upon a time, the unions used to work in the interest of the working class. They stood up for the working class. The Australian Union had the slogan, touch one, touch all. This is a variation of the industrial workers of the world slogan from 100 years ago. An injury to one is an injury to all. And that is the philosophy you must take. If the government injures one child, they injure all children. If the government injures one worker, they injure all workers. Touch one, touch all. Do not let the government get away with it. Your government has damaged the very fabric of this society. And come active, even if it means talking to your friends and trying to raise awareness. But come active, do not comply, try and use cash, resist digital currency, resist the digital passport, the facial ID. It's all coming. A healthy society, the government is answering to the people. Our government is holding the front of the guys. Our government, hold it up please. Just wait for the ones in the back.
The way forward is with mass non-compliance. Just peacefully stand up and say no. The power is in the people.
enough people do not comply, the agenda cannot go forward. The only reason that the unlawful restrictions went ahead the way they did with COVID was because so many people complied, so many people allowed. They didn't want to get in trouble. It's now time to stand up beyond that. Look in your hearts at what you know is right. Know what's not right. Make a choice, make a stand. Don't comply with unlawful directives. Don't comply with things you know to be wrong. Network with other people. Take small steps to make yourself more independent of the government, more independent of the system. The more independent you are, the less control they have over you.
Thanks, guys. Digital ID is coming. Facial recognition is already here. Central bank currency is coming. Consider the ramifications if the internet goes down in a cashless society. How do you purchase your basic needs? Use cash wherever you can. If the government has digital currency and central bank currency, they will be able to track every single purchase. They'll be able to track your movements. It's going to be tied in with facial recognition. This is a dystopian nightmare we are sleepwalking our way into. Until people say enough, they will keep chipping away at your freedoms, your rights, your liberties.
This is not my post, it was a YouTube channel, Aussie Hong Kong. Aussie Hong Kong YouTube
freedoms our
channel.
children never knew.
I still couldn't find a job. Some people find a job already now, but some I still can't. And some of the employers still asking whether you're a job or not. But mostly they haven't on the job requirements anyway. But my aunt was WhatsApping me on 2 months ago. She asked me how am I. I said, the employers here still are asking you whether you're a job or not. And she said, are you kidding me? We in Canada don't ask anymore. Maybe you heard about Canada. Because it's Vancouver, BC, British Columbia. Maybe you heard about Canada, but I don't know about other parts anyway. And then she said that, I told her that the government's still pushing for the jab. And she said, just ignore them. It's over. And she just can't believe it. She just can't believe that employers here are downright, stupid and cold-blood and cold-blood people. Yeah, I know.
Government works for the people. And that is what they've been doing for the last 3 years. Really for the last 50, 60 years.
That king, that bloody king, Charles, they just line up with the London Mayor to pass up the climate change crap anyway. That king, not my king anyway.
Because it's the elites, the so-called elites, the political class, the merchants, the bankers, the commercial ladies, have a read, good one. Look at the state of politics in this country. The Liberal Party just about 7 from next election research. Just think about that. The most popular Liberal senator has just been up by his own party.
Oh, I'm going to go have a wee.
Yeah. The rights of the people must be silenced. Do not care about the people. A dump rig, a pseudo dump, not redeeming. It is just absolutely unbelievable what's happened to democracy in this country.
And
there is no movement for the people. There is no political solution.
And the genitive highs.
It's only when the people say enough that this will change.
And that the
censorship is a clear sign of desperation of the government. Absolutely desperate to cling to their power, to cling to their agenda that they're continuing to push onto the people. Enough people are starting to realise what's going on, that their only card left to play is to try and silence anyone speaking against it. The only reason for censorship.
National compliance Because what they're going to push next, COVID is lockdowns, and the house arrests, and the forced mandates were just the beginning. That was the test.
All right.
All right, just want to thank everybody for coming again. I want to thank Lee and Melinda and John, the boys pushing the trolley. Thank you very much, guys. The Rand handing out the flyers. I know it can seem tough sometimes, but as I've said before, morale is not your mood, morale is your willingness to fight. And I think I can still sense you've got the willingness to fight. I certainly have. I will keep turning up every week as long
I know, okay. Okay, this is over here with the second group, okay. 所以我就一睇第一隊睇下點，係派喺議會嗰隊，財政部嗰隊已經完咗啦，okay. Okay, the group in the Treasury Garden is over, okay. So thank you very much for watching live today, okay. I'll see what's going on at the group at the Parliament.
Oh, it's just I like the bad government over there, but I like the more structured, factual. Exactly. That guy is nothing but facts. There it's a bit conspiratorial, but I love that. But this is all real. Like there's not one thing that gets said which is not facts.
Yes, no real. Did you know Justin Trudeau just recent 2 weeks ago admitted that they
C18?
No, not the C18, but he said in fact he made the vaccine mandate and the lockdowns were illegal acts. Yeah, I know. Fuck it, they were just fuckheads anymore.
And unfortunately, along the same thing, they released C18, which is their, pretty much making Google what they want to do here by the end of the year is make Google and YouTube and everyone not post anything other than the government line.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And that's the C18 bill. Like cheaper and this and that. And they just, it's like right there in the front. Readings. And it's like they want to discount Orwell. Say, it's his wife that did all the work.
Yeah, I know, fucking shit. Yeah, so that's why we really suspect some of the books too. What they write and how.
I went to readings and go, where's the no book? Okay, is there a book about no? I go, there's 10 books right in front of me about, vote yes.
Yeah.
I go, where's the no book? I go, where's the government saying? I don't want a no book. I've read this one.
What they say.
And I'm telling you, this country is following footsteps of Thailand. Did you know Thailand?
Yeah.
I'm sure you went to Thailand. If you haven't followed Thailand politics closely, the Thaksin, which was a popular prime minister back 15, 16 years ago, 16, 17 years ago, he was duly elected by the people in the country areas of Thailand. But the city dwellers like Melbourne, like Phuket and everything, which is really not like Melbourne, they hated him and they toppled him in a coup.
Yeah, that's right. And the military was in charge for about 5 years or something.
Yeah,
and another election.
Yeah, and it's a similar thing here, boys. The country areas versus the city areas like this.
Yeah.
But not all of them. Some of us are on our side.
Country areas know what's going on. I live out that way. A lot of
Yeah. And also, this is the same as Thailand. Did you know that? Australia following the footsteps of Thailand.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is elected by rural America.
Yeah.
Thaksin is the same.
Yeah.
So the rural, it's all about rural versus city.
Yeah,
city divide.
Yeah. But unfortunately in this country, the majority live in these bloody smart cities, yeah?
Yeah, I know.
They love it.
Yeah, the rural areas, we still need to educate them more. Otherwise we're in trouble. So we need a Thailand.
What's that thing up there?
What?
Down above of that news.
What?
I haven't seen that before. Above that news post, information post near the station.
Oh, yeah.
What sort of...
Oh, yeah. Oh, that one?
Yeah. No,
it's...
they're not cameras. They must be picking up mobile phone data.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright， 好，今次今日嘅 live 到此為止 ，OK。我而家到咗 Parliament 嗰度 ，OK。OK， 我哋而家到咗議會嗰度咧，準備走啦，翻屋企去搞我自己啲即係我間車口啲嘢 ，OK。咁多謝你今日收睇 ，OK。咁你 subscribe 我個 channel， 如果你中意我撐我，如果你覺醒咗嘅話呢幾年，同埋你如果打咗啲針出咗事，或者你親友打咗出咗事，請你 subscribe 我 channel。 Okay, I'm stopping it here, okay, because I have to go to my shelves and take care of my things. So I'll have to end it here, okay. So if you're work in the last couple of years, please subscribe to my channel. And if your friends and family who are awake too, tell them to subscribe to my channel. And if they took the jab and got everything's trouble, if they are got in trouble or whatever it is, the last 3 years and they are working, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Bye bye.